All right, my beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, I want to get caught up on the latest news these last 2-3 days in Madrid. So I want to talk about a few things. We need to talk about Endrick and Trent and a few other things. Then I want to give you guys my thoughts on the Benfica match in the Champions League tomorrow night, because I think that this game, this is going to be much more important than you guys think, and I want to explain to you why I think that match is going to be so important. And then finally, I want to talk about sort of the 10 things that I think are very clearly discernible in terms of improvements in our play. And, you know, I have touched on some of these in my previous videos, but even in just 2 matches, there are some very clear signs of improvement. And I want to go through some of the things that I've identified that I think are fairly clear and really, really positive. Look, none of us, from a human standpoint, none of us wanted to see Xavi go. Like, Xavi is somebody that we all love and respect. And from a sort of human personal standpoint, you know, none of us enjoyed letting him go, but I do think we have to separate the professional from the personal, and there was definitely something wrong, something wasn't working, and something had to be done, and the decision to let him go is something that I absolutely understand. It didn't surprise me in the least, but we have to separate that from the personal side. We all love Xavi as a person, and it was painful to see him go. But I do want to talk about some of the things that I think are very, very obvious in terms of improvements in our play. So, okay, let's discuss all of this. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is Endrick, because it's just so upsetting to me that, you know, Endrick, when he was presented here at the Bernabeu and I attended it, it was so emotional, right? He comes from Brazil. He's 17 years old. You could tell it was the happiest day of his life. I mean, the kid was in tears on the podium. It was such an emotional situation, and it was really so disappointing to see what happened subsequently, because Ancelotti gave him a few chances and some minutes here or there. And I think he always performed when he was called upon. I thought his contribution was really positive, and we saw really good glimpses of I think a fabulous player. But then under Xavi, he didn't get a single minute, and it was something that was totally inexplicable. I've yet to hear a proper explanation as to why Endrick didn't get any minutes at all. So we ship him off to France, and now he's just setting the world on fire. And there are attributes about his play that I think we can all agree are really, really unique. I mean, this is a player that he has an extraordinary amount of power, and his acceleration is crazy. There are some aspects of his play that remind me a little bit of Ronaldo Fenomeno. And for those of you that you know that had the luxury of watching him play, Ronaldo Fenomeno was one of the most incredible players I've ever seen in my life, and he had this incredible acceleration and this power. When the ball got to him, he just would put the game into another gear. And Endrick has that quality about him. When the ball, you know, the game is transpiring at a certain rhythm, and when the ball gets to Endrick, he just accelerates the play. I mean, he all of a sudden will kick the ball 10 meters forward and start sprinting like crazy. He injects a huge amount of energy and speed into his team's play, and he's very powerful, shoots really well with both feet. He can dribble at max speed really, really well, which is a very hard thing to do. I just think that this is a really explosive player. He knows how to finish. He's playing in a really interesting position in Lyon, because he's playing a sort of 7-9. So he's on the right, but he drifts a lot into the middle. So he's playing as a sort of, winger/9, but it's really effective because he's utilizing all the space up front. I just think this is a really good player, and it is absolutely beyond me that we weren't able to give him any minutes at all. The only silver lining here is that he still belongs to Real Madrid, and we can recall him whenever we want. But I mean, we have to make a note of what Enrique is doing in France, because it's absolutely exceptional. Interestingly, I don't know if you guys know this, but the contract that Real Madrid made with Lyon, it's so funny. It was kind of like a reverse like it's the opposite of what you would expect in a contract like this. So he goes on loan, and typically the more a player plays, the more Lyon would have to pay for his services, right? Like, okay, we borrow a player. If he plays a lot of minutes, we'll have to play more. Real Madrid did it the other way around. They said, we'll actually lower your price the more he plays. So what Real Madrid wanted was for Endrick to get as many minutes as possible and to play as much as possible in Lyon. And they structured the deal in that, I think it was something like there was a certain amount per start. So the number of games that he starts, you start reducing the fee that Lyon has to pay. So it's in everybody's interest. Lyon is benefiting, Endrick is benefiting, and Real Madrid is benefiting from getting Endrick to play more minutes. So it's a good arrangement, and the only silver lining is that one day we can bring him back. But it is amazing to see what this player is capable of, and I'm so happy that he finally has a chance to show the world what he can do, at least in Europe. In Brazil, everybody obviously knows. Okay, we needed to talk about Endrick because that's making a lot of headlines. Now, there were some rumors about Trent as well that I want to go over. So the press in this country they will make things up to try to destabilize Real Madrid. They do it all the time. If you remember last week after the whistles, it was all over the press that Vini had said that he doesn't want to play in a team that doesn't love him and all this stuff. It was all over the press. But then when you try to find the actual clip of Vini saying it, you can't find it. So a lot of the times these things are made up. So the latest rumor that the press was trying to spin here was that Arbeloa told Trent to find another team, that there's no room for you here, go to another. Now, this is absolute nonsense. You will not find Arbeloa saying that anywhere or suggesting anything like that. Trent, in fact, has started to train again, so it looks like he's getting closer to being able to start. The right back position is one where we're very, very thin, and we need all the help we can get. It is totally inconceivable that Arbeloa would tell Trent to find another club. This is just the kind of BS that the press likes to make up to destabilize things here. But just wanted to mention that. On another note, Rudiger looks like he's working on his own now. He started to train, not with the group, but he's training on his own. So it looks like Rudiger is getting closer to coming back. He'll probably come before Militao. Militao's recovery is a little bit slower, but it is very positive that Rudiger is at least sort of running on the pitch again. Very good news. Okay, in other news, just anecdotally, because it's kind of funny, the Camp Nou against Oviedo the other day, it was raining in Barcelona, and the stadium still isn't completed, but man, there was just water pouring everywhere in the press boxes. There were all sorts of cracks and just like these they look like Niagara Falls, just water falling everywhere. Everybody got wet. It's a bit of a disaster. You may recall that Barça chose, of all the companies bidding for this contract, they were all within a sort of 5 to 10% range, and then there was one bidder that was way below, like 35% below everyone else. And that's the contract, that's the one they went with. And, you have to ask yourself, how somebody can do the same job for so much less. So there are kind of quality concerns and issues there, and they're already way behind schedule. But it was just kind of funny to know that Laporta getting soaked trying to watch the match. Okay, in other news, the noise issue in the Bernabeu, this has also been in the press here, is going to trial. Okay, so now it's officially in the sort of legal channels. It is going to go to trial because Real Madrid presumably violated, sort of environmental laws relating to sound, decibel levels, etc. So this is a process that will take probably many years. The judicial system here is very, very slow. But, I don't know what to tell you guys. The Bernabeu was built before there were any apartments anywhere near the area. If you buy a house near a football stadium, what do you expect? I mean, it's, if you buy a condo near an airport that only has flights once a week, fine, but there's always the chance that they'll start operating on a daily basis, and that's what happened with the Bernabeu. Now there's more activity and they're utilizing the stadium more, but you have to expect that if you live next to an 88,000-seater stadium, that there are going to be activities and events. So I think the whole thing is ridiculous. I think a lot of these neighbors are just trying to extract money from the club. But anyway, that's gone into the judicial channels now. It'll probably take a few years. In more positive news, the NFL they have announced that there will be more NFL matches coming to the Bernabeu. This is obviously very good for the sort of finances of the club. They didn't specify which matches will be played, but they did sort of say that there will be more matches coming to the Bernabeu, which is obviously very, very positive. Okay, now let's switch gears and talk about the Benfica match tomorrow night. And The reason I think this is such an important match is, look, obviously if you're in the top 8, you don't have to do the knockoff round, and we all know that. But it's also very important. Now, we're currently third. If we were to win, if we can stay in the top 4, you have a massive advantage, not just in not having to play an additional knockoff round, but also that you get sort of the second leg at home throughout the knockoff stages. So if you're in the top 4, in the round of 16 and in the quarterfinals and the semis, you will be playing the second match at home. And that is a massive advantage because we all know what the Bernabeu is capable of. It's one of the most mystical places in world sports. The things that happen at the Bernabeu just don't happen anywhere else on earth. There's some weird force field. There's some supernatural kind of stuff going on there. But to be able to play the second game in the Bernabeu would be an absolutely massive advantage. So I do think that winning tomorrow night would be really, really important to keep us in that top 4 with all the advantages that come with it. It's also interesting, I didn't know this until this morning, that if you are in the top 4 and you get eliminated by another team, that team inherits your home field advantage, the sort of second leg at home thing. I wasn't aware of this. So if we get knocked out in the round of 16 by someone else, any club, that club would then inherit the privilege of playing their second leg at home throughout the remainder of the knockoff stages. So look, I think it's a very important game, not just psychologically and in terms of staying in the top 8, but important in terms of staying in the top 4 for that reason. Now, in terms of the match against Benfica and the lineup, look, I think we're probably going to see a 4-3-3 because you would have, if Arbeloa was going to experiment with a 4-4-2, you would have probably expected him to do it in the Villarreal match, because that's an away match in a difficult stadium where you need a lot of defensive muscle. But he went out in the Ceramica with a 4-3-3. So it looks like he's quite loyal to this system. And I would expect that to be the case against Benfica as well. So I'm expecting a 4-3-3. Rodrigo is available to play, but I think he'll probably start on the bench. So I think that you're going to see a lineup very similar to what we've seen the last couple of matches. Tchouaméni is available. I expect him to be pivot. But I think you'll see a 4-3-3 very similar along the lines of what we saw the last couple of matches. I think Mastantuono will probably start in the right wing, and maybe Rodrigo will come off the bench. But you never know. But I think tactically, I'm expecting a 4-3-3. Okay, another thing that's important to mention is that the calendar is very much in our favor now, because getting eliminated from the Copa del Rey, as sort of painful as that is, the fact that there is no Copa del Rey and that we can almost surely avoid the extra knockoff stage, the players now have a lot more time to rest and recover between matches, and this is a huge advantage as we get into the spring in the latter part of the season. Now Pintus is back in charge of the physical preparation of the squad, which is something I'm very happy about. But with Pintus back and with those added days of rest, I do think it's going to help us enormously. And this is a team that's been struggling with injuries all season, so I think those extra days of rest are going to be really, really important going forward. Okay, now let's get into the sort of the thumbnail of this video, which is the 10 things that I observe that really, I think, represent a big improvement in terms of our play. And we do have to discuss this. Now, I do get the feeling, and I have yet to hear a really good explanation as to what was going on under Xavi and what was wrong. There were obviously tensions there. But there is an improvement. I remember that, when Xavi was first sort of dismissed, and even the days prior, a lot of you guys in the comment section would say, firing Xavi isn't going to help anything, it isn't going to do anything, you still have the same players and the same problems. And in the video that I put out, I said, well, not so fast. Yeah, not so fast. There are a lot of precedents in football, not just at Real Madrid, but in other clubs, where if there is a problem with the current manager and the team is not performing, and you see this consistently, and you remove the manager and replace him by anybody, literally just anybody, even in-house, that there is a positive bounce back. And we've seen a lot of cases like this, not just Zizou, I think when he took over from, I think it was Benitez, but you said, Hansi Flick at Bayern Munich, or, Guardiola at Barca, or like Di Matteo at Chelsea. There are a lot of situations where this has happened that removing the manager and just removing the negativity has a positive impact on the squad. So I told you guys, not so fast. Like, you might see an improvement in our play, even though it's the same players and all that kind of stuff. So what are the things that have changed that I think are quite discernible? Okay, number one, the level of intensity. I mean, this is without a doubt. Now, the Monaco match I watched live, and in the stadium you can really see the physical effort that the players make. It's a little bit harder to see on TV, but I think in both matches, you can clearly see that there's a level of intensity that wasn't there before. There's a level of aggressiveness and intensity in our play that wasn't there. The players are running more. They look more aggressive. It's more coordinated. But just the level of intensity of the squad, I think, has improved tremendously. And I think that's visible for everyone to see. Number two, we have a much more sustained level of concentration. Now, one of the things that I picked on Xavi, throughout the season was that every time we scored, or even every time we conceded a goal, we seemed to kind of drop our energy level. We would freeze up. We'd become a little bit, we would doubt ourselves. We projected a lot of kind of indecision and insecurity, and we weren't able to really sustain concentration for the 90 minutes. The second we scored, or the other team scored, we would kind of freeze up, and you could see that. That is no longer the case. I think the players in the last two matches have shown that their level of concentration is there from the very first minute till the final whistle, and that's a very, very noticeable difference relative to what we were seeing under Xavi. Okay, number three, we're pressing a lot higher up on the pitch, and this is so important. We're no longer collapsing into a low block, and we were kind of doing that. We did a lot under Ancelotti, and we were doing it a lot under Xavi. We're not doing that anymore. We're pressing much further up on the pitch, much further up towards the middle of the pitch. We're not just pressing when the other team is coming out with the ball, but we're pressing when they are in possession. We're pressing much higher up around the midfield. So we're not collapsing into this deep block, which is kind of a reflex that we had for the last couple of seasons. We're seeing a lot less of that, and I think it's really, really positive because we're recovering balls in much more positive areas. Okay, number four. I notice a lot more switching. So Kylian and Vini are switching a lot more. I even noticed it with Arda and Mastantuono. And of course, if Rodrigo plays, the same would happen with him. But the switching from exterior to interior, that's something that, it does catch defenses off guard, and it forces the defenders to have to swap coverage. And it is a great way of finding space to sort of make those switches and put Vini on the wing. All of a sudden, he comes to the middle, and Kylian goes off to the wing, or Mastantuono comes to the interior, and Arda goes to the wing. Like, these things are very, very useful, but I think it shows a greater level of mobility. So that's something that I noticed, which is very positive. Okay, number five, we're doing a lot better job of combining short play with long play. So if you notice, under Arbeloa, what we're seeing now is in terms of short play, we're seeing a lot of triangles. So the player that has the ball, the two players that are closest to the ball, when a Real Madrid player receives the ball, the two players that are closest to him have to come in and provide support short. Wherever that is on the pitch, the two closest players need to come in and provide support short, and then of course the players that are further away need to think about making runs off the ball and give us options passing long. But I think that we're doing a much better job of combining short play with long play, and that always makes a team much more dangerous. But I think we're doing a much better job of that. Okay, number six, there's a lot more movement off the ball. So we're looking for through balls, either from the interior out to the wing or from the wing to the inside, but we're looking for through balls all the time, starting even from our center backs. Huijsen is always looking to make a long pass. Asensio's making long passes mostly in the air. Huijsen likes to do them lower. He keeps the ball on the pitch, but he's looking for deep balls and deep runs, where I just think that there's a lot more movement off the ball, so it's allowing us to play deeper balls, and it makes us a lot more threatening. Number seven, there's much faster ball circulation all over the pitch, especially in the final third. So you could tell in the Villarreal match, a lot of the quick 1-2s up front, there was very quick triangulations, very quick 1-2s. It made us a little bit imprecise at times because we were playing we appeared very rushed in our play. But the positive takeaway is that the ball is circulating with a lot greater speed, and that's a lot harder to defend against. It's a lot harder for defenders to adapt to that. So yes, it makes you a little bit less precise, and you're more likely to lose the ball, but it makes you a lot more dangerous as well. So I'm seeing a lot faster circulation of the ball, which I think is very positive. Okay, number 8. Just the grit defensively, just it's one thing to sort of press positionally and be in the right place. You can have bodies very high up, but if you don't poke, it's pointless. If you're just standing in front of a player, even if you're positioned to be pressing high, you got all these bodies up front, and you're trying to block passing lanes. But if you're not actively poking, sticking your foot in, trying to steal the ball, it's useless, and eventually the other team will get out of the back. So it's very important, if you're going to try to press high, to make sure that you're aggressive in your press, not just positionally correct, but aggressive in terms of trying to poke the ball and get the ball out. And this is something that I've really noticed defensively, how aggressive our defenders are, much more aggressive than before. Even if you notice, when our rivals pass the ball to somebody in the middle of the pitch and Hoyson or Asensio have to run up behind him, they're doing a great job of anticipating those passes and sticking their foot between the legs and just trying to make it really hard for the players to receive the ball. But this is the level of aggressiveness defensively is something that I think is really noticeable, and it's helping our play a lot. Okay, number 9. There's more continuity in our system. Now, it's only been 2 matches, admittedly, but it has been a 4-3-3, and it has been basically similar in both cases. Now, one was a match at home, and one was a match away against a pretty difficult rival. Villarreal was sort of third in La Liga, playing well, so you would have, if Arbeloa was going to switch tactics a lot and use a more defensive 4-4-2, he would have done it in the Villarreal match, but he didn't. He stuck to the 4-3-3. As long as the forwards help to press and backtrack and help recover balls, you can get away with playing a 4-3-3. It just requires the forwards to do a lot more running, but it does look like this is what Arbeloa wants to do, and I think that this continuity is going to be helpful, because under Xavi we were switching formations and switching players and switching, we were doing a 4-4-2 sometimes, then a 4-3-3, and then we would change. Even a player would play, Jude would play at 10, then he would play as a sort of 8, and then he would go off to the left wing. There was way too much inconsistency in what we were doing on the pitch, and it made it very difficult for us to develop automatic play, reflexive play, like just the kind of automatic stuff that players already know where everybody is, and it's very hard to develop that if you're changing your system and the position of players every single match. Arbeloa, I think, is bringing a little bit more continuity. This is 2 games in a row. He's playing a 4-3-3, very similar, with very similar instructions in either case. And I think that consistency will be very positive in terms of gelling our play and playing better as a team, as a collective. And then finally, number 10, and we have to admit this, there's just better vibes. I mean, in terms of not just Vini hugging, Arbeloa on the byline, but just even among the players, there's a better vibe. It just feels to me like the players are smiling more, they're happier, there just seems to be more positive energy, and I think the vibes have changed a lot. So I don't know, I have yet to hear a proper explanation as to what went wrong under Xavi. Something was clearly wrong, and a change had to be made. And sometimes all it takes is removing, if there is a negative factor, right, in the dressing room or in terms of play, something, just removing the negative factor sometimes just allows everything else to flourish. And I get the feeling that that's sort of what's happening here. And I'll repeat it. It was very sad to see Xavi go from a personal standpoint, but it is perfectly understandable, and something had to change. And I think we're seeing some positive effects of those changes already. So look, those are the improvements that I've sort of noticed in our play. And those are my thoughts going into the Benfica match. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I always love to hear your opinion. So let me know what you guys think, and I will definitely come back to you guys with my thoughts after the Benfica match tomorrow night. So thanks for joining me as always, and as always and forever, a la Madrid.